What I'm about to tell you will feel uncomfortable because it exposes the truth you've avoided your entire life. You care too much, and that's exactly why people treat you like an option. Stop this video right now if you're attached to being liked. Stop watching if you need constant validation, because what comes next will force you to confront the parts of yourself that gives away power without even realizing it. Machiavelli understood a ruthless secret. The person who cares the least controls the dynamic. And once you learn how to master cold emotional neutrality, not cruelty, not manipulation, but sovereign detachment, everything in your life will shift. If you keep watching, you're choosing strength over comfort. Before we go deeper, drop a fire in the comments if you've ever cared way more than the other person, and they used it against you. Your honesty will wake someone else up. Chapter 1. The Power of Indifference. Why Caring Less changes everything. There is a point in every man's life where he realizes something brutal. The more he cares, the less others seem to care in return. It's not fair. It's not logical, but it's human nature. Machiavelli knew it centuries ago. He wrote that people love at their convenience and abandon in their fear. Meaning people give affection when it costs them nothing, but they respect distance, discipline, and emotional composure. You've been taught to chase approval, to prove yourself, to explain, justify, reassure. All that did was make you predictable, and predictable men get taken for granted. Today we begin reversing that. People are not drawn to your effort. They are drawn to your centeredness, your calm, your emotional independence. The second you become too invested, too available, too eager, something shifts. They stop seeing your value. Not because you're unworthy, but because your caring becomes excessive. Humans instinctively equate abundance with low value. And you've been giving your attention away like it costs you nothing. Picture this. You text someone. They reply hours later with one-word answers. Old you, spirals, overthinks, double texts. New you, doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't react. You match their energy with calm indifference, not spite, not manipulation, just self-respect. Suddenly, their tone changes, their replies get longer. They start noticing your absence. Why? Because your silence exposes their behavior. Here's the psychological mechanism. People value what feels slightly out of reach. Not unavailable, but not desperate. And you've been signaling desperation without even realizing it. Pause for a second. This next line is going to sting. You were never ignored because you weren't good enough. You were ignored because you made yourself too available. Now let's fix that. When something bothers you, what do? Do you react instantly? Do you explain yourself? Do you apologize even when you didn't do anything wrong? That's emotional dependency. And Machiavelli warned that it destroys respect. Respect comes from composure, especially under tension. Behavioral psychologists found that people perceive those who delay emotional reactions by just 2 seconds as 74% more stable and trustworthy. 2 seconds. That's all it takes to shift perception. So here's your first tactic. Whatever happens, a rude comment, a delayed reply, a misunderstanding, you pause for 2 seconds, you breathe, then you respond. This single habit separates the emotionally strong from the emotionally needy. Imagine someone comes at you with irritation. Why didn't you call me back? Old you panics, over-explains, tries to fix everything. New you looks at them calmly, waits 2 seconds and says, I respond when I'm available. That's calm power. That's controlled indifference. They can't escalate because you didn't take the bait. Attention is a currency. If you flood the market with it, it becomes worthless. The moment you pull back, not as a manipulation but as self-respect, people start sensing the difference. Machiavelli wrote that rulers must appear needed, but not needy. This applies today more than ever. Your friend group stops inviting you as often. You notice. You feel the sting. Old you tries harder, reaches out more, fills the silence. New you gives space, focuses on your life, stops chasing closeness. Within weeks, invitations return. Why? Because your absence created value again. Human nature, predictable, brutal, true. Choose one area of your life, texting, plans, favors, and reduce your immediate availability by 20%. Not ghosting, not withdrawing, just stop being instant. When you stop being instant, you start being respected. Here's the real Machiavellian insight. When you care less about outcomes, you gain more control over them, because you're no longer ruled by fear, anxiety, or urgency. This is not about becoming cold-hearted. It's about becoming cold-minded, calm, strategic, composed. You always initiate, you always accommodate, you always adjust. But now, you stop rushing, you stop over-communicating, you stop over-investing. Suddenly, the other person starts asking more questions, paying more attention, mirroring your energy. Not because you trick them, you give too much care up front, too much access, too much certainty, too much reassurance. You've been investing before evaluating. Machiavelli's principle. Never give more than you can afford to lose. Your attention is a resource. Your time is a resource. Your emotional energy is a resource. You've learned why caring too much destroys respect. But now comes the evolution. In Chapter 2, you will learn the 4 cold game principles Machiavelli would use today, how to master the psychology of scarcity, the exact tactics to build calm dominance, the forbidden mindset shift that instantly changes how people treat you, and the 6 rules of strategic indifference that elite men live by. Grouped frameworks, shock statistics, forbidden knowledge, scenario examples, pattern interrupt at the 13-minute mark. Masculine, dark, psychological tone. Curiosity loops. Here we go. And Chapter 2, the cold game framework. Mastering strategic detachment. If Chapter 1 showed you why caring too much destroys respect, Chapter 2 shows you exactly how to reverse it. With Machiavelli's cold game, rebuilt for the modern world. This is where emotional overinvestment dies, and psychological sovereignty is born. To make this simple, I've broken everything into 4 cold game domains: internal detachment, behavioral indifference, emotional self-control, social power dynamics. Inside each domain, you'll learn the specific Machiavellian moves that shift how the world responds to you. Before anyone else respects you, you must stop needing them. This is the core paradox. The less you depend on other people's validation, the more they want yours. People sense when you want something too badly. Attention, approval, closure, reassurance. Craving creates pressure. Pressure repels. Indifference creates freedom. Freedom attracts. This doesn't mean you stop caring about goals. It means you stop clinging to outcomes. You act from strength, not fear. Imagine you send a message. They don't reply right away. Old you anxiously waits, rereads your text, worries you did something wrong. New you stays focused on your life, not their response. Your emotional world no longer belongs to their timing. You must build an identity that is rooted in your own actions, routine, purpose, not external approval. People are drawn to men who have their own gravity, their own orbit, their own life. Machiavelli wrote that a powerful ruler must be complete within himself, needing nothing, yet offering much. Self-sufficiency is silent dominance. You give 30% emotional energy to others. You keep 70% for yourself. Why? Because emotional overinvestment creates unbalanced dynamics. People instinctively pull away from what overwhelms them. Balanced investment creates attraction and respect. This rule prevents you from ever pouring more into someone than they pour into you. Internal detachment is the foundation. Behavioral indifference is the expression. These moves signal emotional sovereignty without saying a word. Never be the first one to text after tension. Apologize when you're not wrong. Over-explain your intentions. Ask for reassurance. Chase after distance. Let the other person reveal their intentions first. This is not a game. It is information gathering. You watch their behavior without trying to influence it. Machiavelli would call this strategic observation. You pull back slightly, not to punish, but to recalibrate the dynamic. This means delayed responses, shorter replies, fewer explanations, less initiating, creating small pockets of distance. Instead of chasing connection, you create space. Space generates value. Space creates curiosity. Space makes people wonder where your energy has gone and why they no longer have as much of it. When you stop giving constant attention, your presence increases in value. This tactic is not manipulation. It is economics applied to emotion. A study from the University of Kansas found that people value interactions 43% more when they happen less frequently, but with higher quality. Meaning, when you withdraw excess availability, people start appreciating moments with you. This is Machiavelli's principle of controlled visibility. Being present just enough to stay relevant, but absent enough to stay desired. Now, we enter the deeper territory, the part that changes your entire vibration. Cold game isn't about acting emotionless. It's about becoming unshakable, regardless of what others do. If someone pulls back, you never pursue harder. You mirror, you breathe, you stay grounded. This prevents you from reinforcing disrespectful behavior. Pursuit is only attractive when it is mutual. Any emotional trigger, a rude comment, a cold message, a perceived slight, should be met with one thing: a pause. This is a weapon, a shield, a psychological reset. Studies from Stanford show that people who pause before responding are seen as more intelligent, more powerful, and more trustworthy, even if they say the same words as someone who responds instantly. The pause gives you the advantage. It makes others recalibrate. People try to extract emotional information from your face, tone, and reactions. Cold game means no visible tension, no defensive tone, no exaggerated reactions, no emotional spills. Your neutrality forces others to confront their own behavior without using you as an emotional sponge. Stop. Look at the timestamp. Most people never make it this far. You did, because something inside you is waking up. But what comes next? It's the part Machiavelli would never say publicly, because it reveals how power truly works in social dynamics. This is the part people misunderstand, and misuse, and fear. So let's be clear. These principles are not about dominating others. They're about protecting yourself from being dominated. People lose respect when they know exactly how you'll behave. You break your patterns by occasionally doing the unexpected. Don't respond instantly. Don't always initiate. Don't always give reassurance. Don't always say yes. Predictability is death. Flexibility is power. There is nothing more powerful than a man who knows when not to speak. Silence creates pressure. Pressure creates truth. When you stop filling every moment with explanation, apology, or justification, others are forced to confront their behavior, not your reaction to it. Machiavelli advised princes to maintain a psychological distance from their subjects, close enough to inspire loyalty, distant enough to command respect. In modern life, distance means emotional independence, reduced availability, not letting others see your insecurity, not letting others dictate your emotional world. When you master this distance, people stop taking you for granted instantly. Distance is gravity. Distance is leverage. Distance is value. You now have the 12 cold game rules, but information alone doesn't change your life. Implementation does. In Chapter 3, you will learn the daily routine that makes indifference automatic, the habits that build emotional sovereignty, the rituals that sharpen your presence. The one cold game technique. Machiavelli hinted at, but never revealed. The technique that transforms your entire identity. Implementation steps. Forbidden knowledge, frame scenario examples. Actionable Daily system pattern. Interrupt at the 20-minute mark. Masculine, dark psychological tone. Identity transformation. Upgraded CTA. This is the transformation chapter. Chapter 3. The cold game in action. Daily implementation for unshakable power. Everything you've learned so far is theory layered with psychology and strategy. But power doesn't come from knowing. Power comes from embodying. Now we take Machiavelli's cold game and turn it into a daily practice. A system that rewires your emotional reactions, your communication style, your presence, and ultimately, your identity. Because once you become the kind of person who is calm, unbothered, unshakable, you no longer have to pretend to not care. You genuinely operate from a place of inner stability. This is where everything changes. The cold game becomes effortless when you master 3 pillars. Internal regulation, controlling your emotions before they control you. Behavioral precision, sending signals of strength without performing strategic distance, using space as leverage rather than silence as punishment. Let's break them down into practical, daily habits. Most people pretend not to care while internally melting down. That is not strength, that is performance. True indifference comes from internal stability. Here's how you build it. Whenever you feel triggered, someone ignores you, disrespects you, or gives you cold energy. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6, repeat 3 times. Why this works? Slows your heart rate, interrupts emotional spirals, regulates your nervous system, delays reactivity. This is emotional sovereignty in its simplest form. Machiavelli taught that rulers must control their internal storms, so no one can weaponize them. This is how you become unweaponizable. You practice keeping your expression steady during conflict, silence, tension, emotional bait. Your face becomes unreadable. Not cold, not angry, just centered. Choose one thing you normally seek validation for. Texting back quickly, explaining yourself, asking for opinions, and refrain from seeking it for 24 hours. This is psychological detox. You're removing your dependency on reactions. This is where the cold game becomes visible to others. Whatever you want to say, reduce it by 1 sentence. This creates authority, clarity, confidence, mystery. You stop over-explaining. You stop diluting your message. You stop chasing reassurance. Choose one channel, text, calls, messaging, and apply a 5-minute delay to every non-emergency response. Not to play games, not to manipulate, but to break the reflex of instant availability. You are no longer a vending machine for attention. Imagine they send a dry message, K. Old you spirals and replies instantly. New you waits, takes a breath, replies with calm, neutral energy, hours later. Pick a daily time block, 30 minutes, 1 hour, where you are completely unreachable. No texts, no calls, no replies. This trains 2 things simultaneously. Your nervous system learns independence. Others learn that your time is not free. Space becomes your leverage. Stop scrolling mentally. If your attention drifted, rewind the last 30 seconds. What you just learned is the beginning of becoming untouchable. And if you miss this foundation, nothing else works. You're not here to act indifferent. You're here to become indifferent. There's a difference. A difference the world feels immediately. Distance is not silence. It is self-regulation. The cold game is not about withholding affection. It's about withholding overinvestment. Let's implement this pillar. When someone gives you distance, you mirror it calmly. Same energy, same pacing, same level of access. You don't punish. You don't escalate. You simply match their investment. This eliminates power struggles instantly. Choose 2 to 3 people in your life who drain your energy. Starting today, reduce access to your time, your emotional labor, your immediate availability. This is boundary training, teaching others how to treat you by treating yourself with higher standards. Here, is the forbidden practice Machiavelli hinted at. Disappear for a day. Watch who notices, not to manipulate, but to reveal. When you create clean, intentional distance, the secure check, in the insecure panic, the entitled get angry, the indifferent stay. Indifferent, the loyal make effort. Distance reveals truth faster than confrontation. By now, the habits are stacking. You're calmer, you're slower to react, you're harder to read, you're less available, you're more centered. This is the moment where you transition from a man who acts indifferent to a man who is indifferent. Acting is a performance. Being is identity. Identity is permanent. Here's how you lock it in. To make these behaviors instinctive, follow this exact 7-day protocol. Day 1, the 2-second pause. Respond slower. Think first. Day 2, the 1-sentence rule. Cut verbal excess. Day 3, the validation fast. Seek nothing external. Day 4, the scarcity window. 1 hour of zero availability. Day 5, the non-reactive mirror match. Energy. Don't chase it. Day 6, the absence test. Pull back and observe who steps forward. Day 7, the identity lock-in. Write down the behaviors you want to become permanent. By day 7, people will feel the difference. By day 14, they'll adjust to it. By day 30, you'll never go back. You won't have to pretend to not care. Your new baseline will simply be self-contained power. There's a reason powerful people stay calm, slow, quiet, and emotionally unbothered. The more you care about how others treat you, the easier it is for them to control you. When you detach from outcomes, you regain control of your identity. When you control your identity, you control your presence. And when you control your presence, the world adjusts to you. Instantly. This is the cold game. Not manipulation, not cruelty, just sovereign emotional power. Now you face a choice. The same choice every man faces when he discovers his own power. You can go back to reacting instantly, explaining excessively, caring too loudly, and being controlled by every shift in someone else's tone. Or, you can screenshot one practice from this video, set it as your wallpaper, and live it for the next 24 hours. If you're ready to begin, comment Day 1 below right now. I want to see who is actually stepping into the cold game. Subscribe if something awakened inside you, because in the next video, I'll reveal Machiavelli's system for becoming emotionally untouchable. A blueprint powerful men guard for a reason. Remember, the weak chase, the strong attract, the sovereign becomes unmoved.